it was that same feeling you get anyway that's been in an accident where time slows down
Yeah.
and it's just all happening in that moment. It feels like a minute, but it's a second. I literally think this is how much I love my job. I thought, oh my God, I can't go to work tomorrow. How am I going to go to work? And I'm like, it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. And I'm literally looking at my leg ripped off. And I'm like, how am I going to get back to work? How am I going to work? Like, can I put it back? And I could see the ball of my ankle. My foot was kind of ripped off. And I could see this white ball. I'm like, what's the white ball? It's the balls of your ankle. And it's like a horror movie, right? And I'm like, oh my God. And then so as quick as all those things went through my mind, I'm like, okay, save yourself, jump into action, right? You're a firefighter first. So I pull my belt off, my leather belt. I tourniquet my leg as best I could because I'm like, I don't know if I'm bleeding out or how fast I'm bleeding. I know there's something going on here. My leg's ripped off. First of all, it's okay to have the doubts.
Yeah.
It's okay to have those worries, right? We're all human. We're all going to have them, but it's how you deal with it, right? Do you stay in that moment or do you figure it out and just be, work it out in your head and just, get past that little sticky moment where you're like doubting yourself and be like, no, I can do this and figure out a way, right? There's always a way and there's always a way to overcome what you're going through, no matter what. Always remember you can overcome anything and it's okay to have those days, but you gotta bounce back, recenter yourself, right? Recompose yourself. I'm okay. And make every minute after that better, right?
Welcome back to the Dana Grant Show, where we are focused on heart-centered conversations. And I have someone in the house today. And, my team wrote this, but I would say I've had a conversation with Mike Laughlin, who is in the house today. You're not only going to love him, I think you're going to be like addicted to his story. I can't get enough of him. He is not only a real-life hero, but they wrote he runs towards danger because he refuses to be defined by limitations. You are the most incredible human I have ever met. And that is saying a lot. But I adore how you show up in the world and how you just love life. Well, welcome to the show.
I appreciate that. That's flattering.
Well, it's true.
I just tell people I'm just living my life and because I love being here. I love being alive. And I've been close to death a couple times and it was scary and I don't want to get there ever again.
Yeah, I think what I didn't say, and that we'll add in now, is that you are Canada's, because you're a Canadian, Canada's only AK amputee firefighter. You are incredible. You passed the test like everyone else did, but...
so I was already a firefighter for 16 years when the accident happened, became a above knee amputee. And so there had been a couple people in Canada that had been volunteer firefighters, which there's different tests you have to pass to be a volunteer or full-time. And so when it was time when I said like, Chief, I'd like to come back, what do I have to do? And this has never been done before in the full-time sector. They said, listen, you have to pass the test you did to get on the fire department in the first place that everyone else has to pass. If you can do that, then you can keep your job. And so I did. And, I crushed the test, beat some times that two-legged people had and continued on with my career for the last 9 years since the accident.
So let's talk about that. Let's actually go back because when we first talked, I don't even know how long we talked, but we're both in tears. I'm crying. It should have been our taping because it was just raw and real. And literally you were just like on the edge of your seat because you really you're just all in all the time. Were you like that as a kid too? Were you just like, were your parents just like, oh my God?
Yeah, 100%. I grew up on a farm.
You had to put a rope around him.
Yeah. So like I have a younger brother, a year and a half younger, and an older sister, a year and a half older. And so, we ran around that farm like wild kids. It was the era where you left in the morning and came home at night and the parents didn't know where you were.
Oh yeah.
They just knew that, you were out there somewhere playing in the field and in the bar, on the tractor, wherever. And so, we grew up little terrorizers. And then that carried over to sports for me. I was a huge jock, played all the sports, was always the captain of the team, the leading scorer, the leader on the team. And I love that. We won many championships, won, 4 rugby championships, 4 football championships, won a national fastball championship in 2000, was the captain of the gold medal team. And then I was drafted to the OHL, which is the Ontario Hockey League here in Canada, which is like a big thing to get drafted. I wanted to be a
Big
hockey
thing.
player, right? I wanted to be an NHL hockey player.
I was gonna say you didn't want to be a professional hockey player, did you?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what we all do up here in Canada. But
Yeah.
but of course I did, and a couple of my friends made the NHL. There was a point where I knew I wasn't going to, and that was when I was like, "What am I going to do? What's next? If I'm not going to be a hockey player, what am I going to do?" And firefighting was the next closest thing to me. And the way I say it is, when you're in the fire hall, hanging out with your crew, it's like being in the dressing room, getting ready for the game. You're chumming around, you're playing some pranks, doing whatever, having a good time.
Yep.
When the tones go for a fire call, it's just like going out for a shift. It's all business, and you're there to win, and or as a firefighter, you're there to win, solve the problem, and get back to the station again, and then get back into the dressing room again. So
Yeah.
I was like, that was so closely related for me, and that's what I wanted to do. And I did it. And I did it. I started doing it before 9/11. So before 9/11, I always tell people it was like the turning point for fire departments and being a firefighter. The world saw what firefighters do and how brave they are, and they will run up those World Trade Center stairs when ultimately they knew bad things were going to happen that day, and they didn't care. They just wanted to save people. And so before 9/11, I was already a volunteer firefighter for a couple of years. And I was actually at the station that day when that happened. And that was kind of the turning point. And then it kind of the floodgates opened and everybody wanted to be a firefighter. So I already had my foot in the door at that point, which I was lucky because I came right out of high school, right into firefighting.
Yeah. So right out of high school, right into firefighting, hockey player, athlete, all in, all the time, no limitations. You're going to, you told me a story prior to the latest, we'll just say accident. Prior to that, on the going across the lake. I mean, I literally, you brought me there. I was on that lake, on that snowmobile with you when you hit that island.
Yeah.
Talk about the first close call.
Yeah, so I was out snowmobile like 2007. Was out snowmobiling with some friends. It was a bit of a crazy night. We had got in for the night, and I was adamant that I wanted to go for one more rip out on across the lake. And so I talked one of the guys into going with me, and because I didn't know the place very well, and I was going to follow him. So we were going across the lake. And when I say like it wasn't a good night, it was a blizzard. It was snowing really hard, almost sideways. And it got worse and worse as we got going. We should have turned back. And so, driving along, it's -20. And I'm trying to keep up with the guy in front of me because I'm thinking, we're out on this lake. If I lose him, I don't know where I am. I can drive around and run out of gas. Then what do I do? Then I'm going to walk around and freeze to death.
Yeah.
And so I'm like trying to stay up with him. So I'm speeding up and I can see his tail light. I'm speeding up. And I catch his tail light. I'm like, okay, there he is. And I did that about 5 times. I'd speed up and I'd be like, okay, there he is. And try to keep up with him. And then it was just snowing so hard, I would lose my way again. And I lost him. So I started speeding up and I can't find him. So I'm going faster and faster and I'm driving along and I'm doing about 80 miles an hour. So just flying blindly. And last thing I know is I saw about 10 feet in front of me, an island. I saw the trees. I saw the rock cut. And I remember letting go of the handlebars and thinking, I'm dead. And then I opened my eyes and I sat up and I went, oh my God, I'm alive. And I'm looking around. And I hit this island at 80 miles an hour, bounced off a tree, shot 100 feet through the island, threading the needles up through all these trees, and landed in the snow. And so I looked down, and my left leg is snapped off at the femur, like grossly deformed. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to die out here. I just broke my femur. It's very dangerous. It's -20 in a blizzard. And I'm in the middle of nowhere. No one can see me. No one can find me. So I pulled my phone out of my pocket, and it was the old flip phones back then. And so I flip it open, 911, send, and the phone dies. And so everyone knows back in 07, our phones weren't great. They used to get old, the battery would die.
Yeah.
I throw the phone. I'm like, oh no, it's getting worse, right? Here we go. It's getting worse.
And there's no find you, like find my phone where people can like find your location now. Yeah. You're on this island in the middle of a blizzard and you're there.
And so every once in a while, so I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I kind of took an inventory of what I had, and I had like a lighter and a couple of snacks and this and that in my pockets. And then every once in a while, the snow would break a little bit, and I saw there was a cottage on the island I'd hit. And so I saw this cottage. I'm like, what do I do? I'm like, got a lighter. I'm going to crawl to the cottage. I'm going to light it on fire. Being a firefighter, right? Great idea. But I'm going to light it on fire and the flames will be 100, 200 feet in the air. It'll just be rolling. The fire department will come and they'll find me out here. That's the only way they know how to get people to save me.
So you're going to get to that cottage that you can see, and you crawled. You didn't even know your injuries at that time. You just thought you could do it, and you did.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. I was like, okay, it's not so easy. I can't just get up and walk there. My femur snapped off, and I don't know what else is wrong with me because I hit very hard. And so I started crawling, and I remember crawling, and I remember specifically my crawling, and I could feel my femur coming apart, and then I would pull my leg, crawl, pull my leg. And when I say I was a 10 out of 10 pain, I was a 10 out of 10 pain, a real 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And so I was crawling along, and about 5 minutes went by, and I laid down and I tried to die. And I closed my eyes, and I just said, die, get it over with. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm in too much pain, and I just don't see an end to this. And then I started thinking, I can't do this to my family. I can't do this to my mom, my dad. They're going to get that phone call. And, I can't put them through this. And so I started crawling again. And I started crawling. And I got it like another 10 minutes of crawling. And second time I laid down to die. And I was like, just die, please get it over with. And then, it's weird when it comes up in your head, but I was this, firefighter, tough guy, hockey player. And I'm like, if I go out like this, people are going to think I gave up. And I was a wuss, right? Like, I don't want to give up and go out, everyone knowing that he gave up out there and quit trying to live. And so that gave me a little burst of energy again. And I started crawling. And so you draw the inspiration and motivation from all these things, right? And I crawled for about a couple minutes, and then all of a sudden I heard a snowmobile coming. So the guy I was with got to the other side, waited. I never showed up, and he came out looking for me. And I could hear his snowmobile shut off. He had found the spot where my snowmobile had hit.
Yeah,
my snowmobile was in hundreds of pieces all over the place. And we started yelling back and forth. And he gets over top of me and he's like, white as a ghost. He was in more shock than I was, right?
Was he a fighter? Was he a firefighter too?
No.
So no training. Just you were the one that tied your leg off and did the things didn't.
Yeah. So I had jeans on, and the jeans were holding my leg together basically because it was swelling so fast that I remember the seams of my jeans were starting to tear. That's how much swelling there was in my leg.
Swelling was going on.
You just imagine how tough jeans are, and they were starting to tear.
Yeah.
So he dragged me up on the back of a snowmobile and drove me in, and we got in a car and got to the hospital, and and that's when, they, pump you full of painkillers and they get you ready for surgery. And, and that's when I went in for surgery, and I woke up the next day and my leg was in a huge cast, and the doctor's there and he's like, you broke your tibia, fibula, you broke your kneecap off, you shattered 6 inches of your femur, and you snapped your ulna, you snapped your arm off. It was compound fracture sticking out through your arm. And I said, what? That's impossible. I used myself to drag myself from the island, pull myself in the car. I never noticed my arm didn't even hurt. What are you talking about? He's like, well, you were so focused on your leg. Your brain was trying to fix the most hurt thing at the time. And that's what you didn't notice. And I'm like, wow. So I have a plate in my arm from there to there. I have a rod for a femur, 33 pins and screws holding it all back together, titanium kneecap. And it's pretty gnarly X-ray on my left side, and then
and that's your good leg,
Now my good leg,
yeah.
And I've got these football-sized scars from I had compartment syndrome, and that's when you're like swelling so quickly it could tear all your skin, right? So they made these massive relief cuts in my leg, and so now so they skin graft them. So I have a pretty gnarly looking leg, I'll tell you. I'm not a leg model anymore.
Well, we bonded over this, where I had shared my story with you of a horse accident that, not only dumped me, but crushed me. And I had no idea, I knew the boot had to come off. They had cut the boot off, but because the swelling, they tried to cast me in the emergency room, and the swelling was, it was so painful because it kept getting bigger. But there were so many breaks, I think 65 breaks. You can still look at the leg and see where the screws were, the plates were, it's all filled in now. But, Yeah, they weren't going to take it out, but I think I told you I stepped off a curb in San Francisco once and the screw popped out of my ankle. You could see that skin was holding it in, but I'm like, I remember calling the surgeon at a payphone it's 1990 and saying, I think I have a screw popping out of my ankle. And I went in for, surgery, which I thought that the hardware out was really painful. But yeah, no more leg modeling. And
We also related on that story too, because I was doing the deadlifts after my second accident and broke the screws on my rods in my back, right? And you're like, what? Then we told our stories together.
yeah. How could that happen? I mean, are those are they supposed to be like titanium? Are they supposed to work? Yeah,
Unbreakable. It's unbreakable.
yeah. We're unbreakable. I mean, but it's incredible that I mean, it's remarkable. They told me I wouldn't walk again. They told me that it would never, and I think it was a year before I got up out of traction and all that, but I did. And, I not only did, I still walked, and I'm tall, 4-inch heels. Nothing stopped me, nothing. And it still it doesn't hurt. The scars are, probably alarm people, but it was more later. It was my second bout with, those scars were nothing compared to my second bout, like what we're getting ready to get into with you. So there's your first kind of brush with, wow.
Yeah.
I'm not invincible, but you probably felt invincible.
Well, I felt it before that accident. That was my first setback in life.
Yeah.
First time I'd ever experienced something like I'd always been, let's for lack of a better word, a winner. Like I always won. I never got hurt. I was just one of those people. And then that was, oh my goodness, not
life is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Invincible.
And so, but I went back to full duties at work as a firefighter after that accident, after 8 months. And I remember when I got to physio, my physiotherapist said, listen, if you do anything this entire time you're here, I don't want you to limp. He goes, your leg it's broken everywhere, right? It's a mess. And people come in here with much less injuries than that, and they limp the rest of their life. He goes, limping is in your head. You got to, this entire time you're here, I want you to concentrate on not limping. Tell yourself you don't need to limp. And I really did. I focused on that so hard, and I didn't limp. To this day, I don't limp because of that leg. Well, it's my good leg now, but, and that's like, that really like stuck with me. I'm like, wow, your brain can really control your body if it wants to, if you want to. And so that was kind of like going forward through everything else I went through. I was like, if you can control your brain, you can control your life and the outcome of it. Right. And so I went back to full duties. I went back to playing hockey. You never would have known I ever broke my leg. I went back to catching and fastball, right? Kneeling, like squatting down, catching with that bad leg. It wasn't a bad leg. It was just an ugly leg. Well, but now I believe it's, I like my scars are the roadmap of my life. Right. Yeah. And I know you think that now too, right?
Yeah.
Scars are the roadmap of your life. So
yeah. I'm not. In fact, I've got some big keynotes coming up, and I'm not going to be wearing boots that I normally do. I'm going to wear shoes, and it's not as pretty. It's not like those. They don't look like they really belong to me. They're scarred, and people would often say, "What did a shotgun hit your leg?" No, just 17 is a staph infection. I almost lost them, but I have them. So whenever I go there, I think I'm so friggin' grateful that God had a different plan for me, and I've got them. I can
show those scars off. Show those off.
Yeah. I'm walking the Camino, as I told you, in September, and I'm going to be walking that, and I might not have been walking at all because I was in some deep trouble, and I hid it. I didn't let anyone know. And, I didn't let anyone know because if they knew, then what would that say? What would people not love me? Would they not like me? Would I not be, all the things they thought I was. And now it's like, hey, you get what you get. This is who I am. I'm not hiding anymore. So, and I think there's so much power in that. And that's what I love so much about your story is that you just show up and you were just like living out loud again. And then take us to, you're still a single dude, firefighter. We can visualize all the life that you created. You were, athletic, doing all the things. And then.
Well, there's the in between the two.
Yeah. The in between. Yeah. Let's go to the in between.
Well, I was, getting in shape and in between, from 2007 to 2011, I had met a girl that I went to high school with at the gym.
Yeah.
And Jen later.
I love this in between stage.
And so we hit it off and we, we're living a great life. So she was a yoga instructor, the best in Kingston. And so, we were fast moving in together and living life together.
Yeah.
And madly in love, and we opened a yoga studio on the east side of Kingston called Life Yoga. It was amazing. People loved it. She taught there. And fast forward to 2011, every year, Jarrett, my partner in crime here, on top 60, and we celebrate our birthday together. His is January 9th, mine's January 10th. So we went out for our birthday. And Jen was supposed to come, but she bailed at the last second, said I didn't want to come. She wasn't feeling well. All good. We went out, stayed at a friend's that night, came home the next morning. It's about 10 in the morning. I come into the kitchen and I see Jen's laying on the couch and I'd say, hey, what are you doing? You know, you're usually up by now. What are you doing? Being lazy today kind of thing. And I do a couple more things in the kitchen and she hadn't moved. So I was like starting to think, oh, something's up. So I said, hey, are you going to get up? You know, I'm here, I'm home, and no movement. So I started walking towards the couch, and about halfway to the couch, it hit me that I said, she's dead. And she had committed suicide while I was out that night. And it was obviously devastating. I'd rather crash the snowmobile 1,000 times than go through the emotional pain that comes with this, because you blame yourself. No matter if it's right or wrong, you do blame yourself because you live with that person. You should know everything they're doing, everything they're thinking. But she had been abused when she was younger, you know, quite badly, and it was still affecting her, obviously, very, very traumatically. She hid it very well. She did go to see counseling once in a while, but just never, didn't tell everyone that she was still suffering so bad. Her mom and her were best friends. Her mom didn't know either. So, that gives me a little bit more comfort, is like, I wasn't the only one that didn't see it. But then, going forward, you learn that there would never be a suicide if we could stop it. Of course, she got away with it. That's the whole premise of suicide, right? They hide it so well.
It's the ones that talk about it all the time that usually there's their cry for help. They're needy, but the ones that are not talking about it and hide it so well, and it happens, there is no
never talked about it with me. She never did.
It's almost like addiction. We don't, sometimes we're blindsided by someone in addiction. We didn't see it. We didn't, what do you mean? I never saw it. Because it's hidden so well, because there's so much shame that goes with it. I'm so sorry. Number one, you had to go through that. When you originally told me the story, my heart broke in a million pieces. I could feel I could feel your energy, the way you told the story of where you were and how that impacted you.
Yeah. And I quickly spun out of control. I was trying to heal it together, trying to pretend I was okay, trying to go to work. So back up a little bit, in 2007, when I got into the hospital, I was given tons of painkillers. And this is before the painkiller epidemic. This is still when doctors were giving them to you freely, whenever, as much as you wanted to add on. And I went on for a couple of years, just popping them like they were candy and going and doing my thing. And I came to the point where she was like, I need to stop giving them to you. We're kind of getting the heat on us here. You don't need them anymore. The accident was a long time ago when she stopped giving them to me. And then I found out quickly what withdrawals were and that I was very sick. So I had to go and get some help, and something I was very ashamed of for a long time. But I went to a methadone clinic because I still had to work. And so I went out of town to a methadone clinic out of my own hometown.
Yeah, you weren't going to do it in your own hometown. You were going to go out, just like me when I got my legs, when I realized that I had to admit that it was from injections from pain medicine that was eating my legs away. How could I possibly? There was so much shame that I went out of town. And I mean, literally, I almost lost my legs because of it. I delayed so long in I couldn't let anyone know. Because what would you say about me? What would that say?
Yep, I've been there and I know it. And
makes perfect sense to me that you went out of town and did that. And I'm so glad you did. And then from there,
And so I was on methadone, and Jen knew it and everything. And this is something I've only told once before in my life, live in front of people. But Jen killed herself with my methadone that I was using to stay clean. So, the guilt, the blame, I'm sorry, but it took me years to be able to talk about this.
Oh my God.
She knew what it was. She knew it was dangerous. She knew she couldn't take it. It was locked up. All the right precautions were taken.
Yeah.
She knew what she was doing. If she didn't use it, she was going to use something.
I was going to say, if she didn't use that, she would have found something else.
It was the easy way, but it just,
I'm so sorry.
So much more to it for me that I just can't ever escape that. Like, it'll always be a guilty thing I got to live with. But, So
No.
I spiraled out of control. After she killed herself, I got back on painkillers, and I was a mess. And so finally, luckily, I have good friends, good family. There was a small intervention took place, and it was like, okay, you got to get back on track. We see what's going on. We understand what you've been through.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, Dana, on top of that, I had been arrested for buying painkillers. So this house is being watched where I was buying the ones I was using. Um, so on top of that, on top of all the guilt, here comes more because now I'm Mike Laughlin, the firefighter. That's now Mike Laughlin, the drug addict who got arrested. And so, talk about a rock bottom. Talk about like the rock bottom for me
Yeah.
was that day when I got arrested. It's all over, but I needed it. And so I was so mad that I got arrested and so mad at the police for not like giving me a warning and all this stuff when I need it.
Or like, I'm a firefighter. I save people. You can't help me out here. Yeah, they also knew. They also knew.
They were helping me though.
They were.
I
Yes.
needed to be stopped and I needed to be, this is your job. This is what you identify as your firefighting job. If you don't fix it now, you're going to lose that. And so that was my turning point. And as much as guilt I had about all that happened, I needed to get arrested and I needed to be told, it's got to end. And so that was the day it did end. And so I got the proper help again and life went on. And so like that whole, time of my life, I tried to replace Jen for a long time. Up until after the next little story I'm going to tell. I was always trying to find a woman to replace her exactly like her. Right. So that was really tough. I dated a lot and just never.
So you were calling in the same energy because this is what you thought you needed, even though it wasn't what you needed at all, but it's what you, yeah.
Yeah, I just needed another agenda. I was like, I got to replace, I got to have a woman the exact same as her to make me happy because she made me happy. Right. Anyways, that was just a disaster of part of my life. But like I said, the rock bottom was needed. And that was kind of the first little turnaround.
Do you think even her, you said she made you so happy. Do you think there was a component in there that the fix it energy? I mean, here you're the firefighter, you're the fixer, you're the, that here she is, her trauma. She needed you. She's broken. So you kept calling in women that needed you. And you're like,
how do you know this? How do you know this? How do you know this? It's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah. And you're like, this isn't working. And yeah, because.
And a couple of the women I dated were like people that needed fixing as well.
Yeah.
And and it's just a lot of work and it was just more.
Well, then you didn't have to focus on how broken you felt. As long as you're fixing them, and this is a big deal with firefighters and police officers, all life coach. We tend to be, I stay out of fix it energy. I identified that a long time ago. But as long as we're doing that, we're not having to deal with that core wound and the core fear. And I love the fact that you called it in and then eventually what happened? What happened next?
So
because your life is like, it could be actually, like I said before, it was almost like when we talked before, I didn't know how much time went by because I felt like I was in a movie. And I was screaming from my seat. People say, what would you be screaming from your seat if it was your own movie? I know that I was screaming from my seat when it was your movie because I'm like, no, stop, don't. But yeah, this is like God knew. He just knew what it was you needed.
And I needed this final thing to happen. And, you'd never ask for something like this to happen, but
no,
2016, I'm out, for a ride on my motorcycle. So I was living at a friend's place, out on North Shore Road, north of Kingston. Went out for a ride on my motorcycle. So it's 4 PM. I'm out for a ride, a nice windy road that he lived on.
Beautiful day, wind in your face.
Yep. And just trying to, get some wind therapy, right, on my motorcycle.
Helmet on, right? Helmet on.
Yeah. But I had a Harley. So I had one of those Harley beanies.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm riding along and out of the corner of my eye, I see like this flash of brown. And all of a sudden, boom, I get hit by a deer. And so I didn't go down. I got in a speed bobble. I'm wobbling back and forth. And I got control of the bike and I look up and there's a 90-degree turn in the road. And so right away, I'm trying to make the corner. So I turn as hard as I can. And when I counter steer the opposite way, the bike lays down sideways. I'm scraping the peg off the road. I'm just about making the corner, but I wasn't slowing down, because it happened so fast. And I'm almost making the corner. And my back tire just touches the gravel and the bike just shoots out from under me. And so as that's happening, I'm thinking, don't hit your head. Don't hit your head. You're a firefighter. I've been to so many motorcycle accidents. Usually when they hit their head, they're done. So I tried to ride it out. I sat up on my and rode it out on my butt. I bounced off the road once, twice, shot down into the ditch, feet first, and shoot down like a 10-foot drop. And there's this big rock, and I run right into the rock, and I watched my right leg snap right off at the knee. And the bike comes in after me, hits the rock, lands on top of me. And I remember in that moment thinking, "Oh my God, I did it again. I just killed myself again." Because like that flashback of the island that I'd hit, and it was you. I was that same feeling you get anyway that's been in an accident, where time slows down.
Yeah.
And it's just all happening in that moment, and it feels like a minute, but it's a second.
What's that
And
first thing you thought of when that bike hit you and you know you're there? What was the first? I guess not
you want to
emotion.
be? I'll be honest.
Yeah, I want you to be honest. I want to know what got smacked you right there.
I literally think this is how much I love my job. I thought, oh my God, I can't go to work tomorrow. How am I going to go to work? And I'm like, it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. And I'm literally looking at my leg ripped off. And I'm like, how am I going to get back to work? How am I going to go to work? Like, can I put it back? Like, you're literally like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, you said the bones were like in the dirt, and
so my knee was dislocated out. It was holding up by a little piece of skin. My tibia and fibula were stuck out, lawn darted into the dirt, and I could see the ball of my ankle. My foot was kind of ripped off, and I could see this white ball. I'm like, "What's the white ball?" It was the balls of your ankle, and it's like a horror movie, right? And I'm like, "Oh my God!" And then so as quick as all those things went through my mind, I'm like, "Okay, save yourself, jump into action, right? You're a firefighter first." So I pull my belt off, my leather belt. I tourniquet my leg as best I could because I'm like, I don't know if I'm bleeding out or how fast I'm bleeding. I know there's something going on here. My leg's ripped off.
and you're over a cliff. Down, someone finding you going around that curve are slim to nothing, you know.
Yeah. So I got to that point thinking that too. I'm like, do they even see me down here?
Yeah.
But so I get the tourniquet on. I pull my phone out of my pocket. I remember it was in my left front pocket. And I'm shaking, and I got the phone out, and I'm like, I was going to dial 911. I'm like, 911 transfers you a couple times. I'm going to phone directly to my fire department. So I dialed the number, and I got it on the first try. And
the fact that you did that in the shaking, you're in shock.
Yeah.
And you had the mindset to do that.
Yeah. And I dialed all the digits, right? So, all the digits, like 613-548-4001. And I was like, if you don't get this on the first time, you might die. So the pressure's on, just like in a hockey game or whatever, the pressure's on, you have to nail it this time. And I do remember thinking that you got to nail this first time or you might die. And so instead of 911, which is easy, I dialed the entire,
number.
With
you're in shock, your hands going like this, the odds of hitting those numbers and crazy, but you did it.
I did it. And then, the phone answers and says, "Hey, Mike, how you doing?" Because it came up Mike Laughlin.
Yeah.
Phoning the civilian leg.
What are you doing out there? What's going on today?
I'm dying in a ditch at the end of North Shore Road. Come get me. I think I'm going to die. Say bye to my family. And so she kept me on the line the entire time. She actually got a medal for
brilliant.
She's not a 911 operator. She's a fire department operator. They're not trained to do that part.
Yeah,
I think they are now because of someone like me that they're. But I was on the phone for 17 minutes. Eventually I put it on speaker and just set it down because I had other things to tend to. I'd been yelling and screaming, and so a car went by and didn't see me. So I unclipped my helmet. I threw the helmet up on the road, and I grabbed a couple of bike parts that were broke off my motorcycle, and I threw them up on the road. And the next car stopped. It seen the stuff, kind of realized something was going on here, and then heard me screaming down in the ditch. And so this little lady comes to the corner of the road. And I thought she was going to look at me and be like, "Ooh, this is too much." Right. And
lucky she didn't pass out. Lucky she didn't just go right over.
But no, she climbs down into the ditch, and she puts her arms around me and tells me it's going to be okay. And I was alone down in that ditch, thought I was dying, thought it was my last time on earth. And I needed her to say that. I needed someone. Right. And she was that person. And we live in a world now where people just walk over top of someone on the sidewalk, passed out. They see an car accident and they put their blinker on and they get the heck out of Dodge because they want nothing to do with those people. people drive around, they walk around people, they don't want to help. And she helped me in the time I needed it. And it's when I do my keynote speaking, I drill this in at the end every single time. I say, don't be that person that drives by. Be the person that this lady was to me, because she said words in my ear that might have been the ones that made me pull through. Right. I had someone with me at that time that believed in me and told me it was going to be okay. And it ended up being okay. And so then I could hear sirens coming, and the first firefighters showed up, and there were firefighters that I knew, and I knew I was in good hands, and I thought I was going to make it at that point. And I remember getting packaged up and put in the ambulance, right? I was always the person doing that to people. And now I was being that person.
Packaged up. Yeah. What was that? And so as you're going, could you see, I know you're a reader, did you see in their face, or were they like playing it cool?
So the chief of South Frontenac, where I'd had the accident, was my old captain, my first captain in Kingston Fire. And he rode in the ambulance the entire way to the hospital with me. He, good friend of mine, but I could tell the way he was talking, the tremble in his voice. I haven't actually thought about this much, but I could tell he knew I was screwed. He knew I was going to lose my leg. He knew it was bad. And, but he didn't tell me that. You're going to be fine, Mike. You're doing great. Saying all the right things that we're trained to say to people.
Right.
But I could tell because I am one of those people that does that, the way he was saying it, I could tell it wasn't good. Right. And he doesn't.
But even the surgeon tried to sew that back on. Didn't work, but they tried.
Yeah. So I got to the hospital. They were pumping me full of painkillers in the ambulance. He said, I can't give you any more. And I'm like, I'm not sure why it's not working. I said, well, sir, I got a story to tell you. I've done this before, and I've had an addiction to painkillers. And he's like, oh, sorry, dude, I can't give you any more. I said, that's okay. That's on me. Got to the hospital. They gave me the more high-powered stuff. It wasn't touching the pain. You're going to know why, though, in a minute, because it wasn't just a leg injury. And so the doctor, I remember coming to me, and he's like, listen, we can't give you any more painkillers. We're going to put you in a coma. And I begged him. I said, please do it. Please put me in a coma. At this point, it'd been like 2 hours of 10 out of 10. And it's funny, say I go to the doctor and I've got something that hurts. I always tell the doctor, I go, listen, I had my leg ripped off. That's a 10 out of 10. So the number I'm going to give you, most people give you a 10 out of 10 when they've like hurt their finger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
The number I'm going to give you is like a 4 out of 10. Well, a 4 out of 10 for me is pretty bad.
Yeah.
But it's not getting your leg ripped off. So you got to understand my scale's a little different. I always explain this to doctors, right?
Well, being married to a paramedic for years, 911 paramedic in San Francisco, and then in medicine, he would always prefix, like, you never, ever, ever say over a 7. 7 would be off the charts. You never do a 10 out of 10 because you guys have a different scale for what that looks like. But yeah, never more than
you understand
6. Yeah. Oh, I get it. And I just heard it. Yeah. I just heard it recently. And then I'm like, oh, we're going to tell the story again about, but yeah, I tototally get it.
I was at 10 out of 10 for a couple hours. And so I was begging to be in a coma.
Yeah.
And so I was in a coma for 8 days. I had 6 surgeries while I was in a coma. And I remember waking up, and I woke up, opened my eyes, and my mom's there. And she's like, honey, you're alive. You're okay. But you can't move. And I realized I was strapped to the bed and I had a huge neck collar on. And I'm like, what's going on, kind of thing, coming back around. And she's like, because they've reattached your leg. So they reattached my leg. There was no skin on it. It looked like Frankenstein's leg. It was in this big halo. And I had a neck collar on. She's like, honey, you broke your neck in 2 spots and you broke your back in 3 spots. And I'm like, that's impossible, right? I was in the ditch, throwing parts up on the road, crawling.
I threw a motorcycle off of me. That can't be possible.
I took my 800-pound motorcycle and flipped it off of me.
Yeah.
Like there's no way my neck and back were broken. She's like, trust me, you've got 2 12-inch rods inserted in your spine right now, drilled into your vertebrae. And, you've got a 20-inch scar down the middle of your back, and you've got to wear a collar for 4 months because you've got 2 fractures in your neck. And so these are things I had no clue, right, that I was going to wake up with. Yeah. And so no wonder I was in so much pain as well. But,
exactly.
And so like not just the leg problem, but a lot more problems than that.
Yeah.
And maybe even more serious than the leg, believe it or not, having my back the way it is, the way it was, is way worse than losing a leg. If anybody's ever had a sore back, it affects everything in life. So yeah. So I woke up with with this leg. It only lasted 3 days. The leg wasn't had no blood circulation. They couldn't get a pulse back in it. It had been ripped off. They tried to put it back together. It didn't work. So the doctor finally came in and said, today's the day we're going to amputate your leg. And I remember I cried for about an hour with my family. My entire family was there. We all grieved. And then about an hour went by, and I just thought to myself, you know what? This is happening. I can't stop this from happening. So I'm going to move on. It's time to move on. I said, Dad, grab me that iPad right there. And I said, look up what the best prosthetic leg in the world is. And so he did. He Googled best prosthetic leg in the world. And there's this operator, this Navy SEAL. He's actually a Green Beret, but Nick Laverty. And he's standing there with his weapon in Afghanistan with this mechanical, like robo leg, right? Like this term
Bionic. Yeah. You look like a bionic man. Yeah.
And this guy's like jacked and big. I'm like, that's the one. I need that leg because I'm going to look like that guy. And they're all like, yeah, okay, Mike, perfect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. We'll Google that for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so lo and behold, 4 months later, I had got my first leg just like that. I've had 4 of them since, and I've just ordered a 5th. So
because you wear them out. Don't you wear them out?
yeah, you wear them out. And they've only got a 6-year warranty.
Yeah.
And I need 2 of them, right? I need one for everyday life and one to be in my fire gear. So I go through a lot of equipment, and good thing for insurance because they're really expensive.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I decided an hour after they decided they were going to amputate that I was going to overcome this. And then so time went on, and I learned how to walk. It's a long process. I remember being like the first day wearing my leg, like a loaner leg. I didn't even have the good leg by then. And I wanted to like run, right? And he's like, listen, today is your day you take your first step. And we sit down. So it's very frustrating for someone with my mind because I want to be like, go, 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 go. What's next? What's next? But eventually time went on, and I'm walking, I'm doing normal things. And I went to the chief. I go, Chief, what do I got to do to get back to my job? And he's like, Mike, it's never been done before. I know there's been a couple of volunteers. It was a totally different ball game. It's never been done. And he goes like, I don't know. He goes, I can't say no to you because I know the drive and determination you have, but if you can pass the test you did to get on the fire department to start, then you can have your job back. And I said,
not an easy test. I mean, you're climbing walls and you're doing all the things with one leg. And one leg,
stories.
And the good leg is still got a ton of metal and built and is not fully 100%.
That was a worry. That was definitely a worry because that leg's going to be doing twice the work.
Yeah,
right?
Twice the work.
And
yeah.
Are those pieces of material they put in, the hardware they put in that leg, is that going to fail? Is your going to hold up? All these questions.
Yeah.
But I never questioned that. I was like, it is what it is. That's my good leg now. So be it. And just pushed forward, and I trained, and I luckily, like, everyone on the fire department was supportive. They trained with me every day. They went out to the training grounds. They helped me navigate ladders, climb up the 100-foot platform ladder. I would be doing like up ladders in a window, touch all 4 walls, pull a dummy out, like doing all the stuff I used to do. And they're like, as long as you can do it and do it within the time limit, we don't care how you get it done. And so like stairs were my worst enemy, right? How do you go upstairs? Yeah. Now, these legs are the only legs in the world that can walk upstairs, but with your fire gear on and an extra 100 pounds, no, it's not.
And carry someone out with that, going down the stairs too, and ladders. Yeah. And you pass all that.
I learned how to do it just with my one leg, going up 2 steps at a time, over and over and over. And, I practiced every time I was in the hall. I'd pick up one of the guys on my shoulder and run around the station to prove. I'd always trying to prove myself, right? And see, like, listen, I know you guys might be doubting me, but I can do this. And I did have maybe a few doubters, but a lot of them knew me.
Well, I think they were doubting the fact they could do it. They didn't have that for. They're like, I couldn't possibly figure this out. How could you? I mean, you are a leader. You're a leader in the industry. You're the first. And to ever have it done. Yeah.
And funny you say that. So being the first around. So at the same time, there was a guy in the US, Brandon Anderson.
Yeah.
Fishers, Indiana. And so he had lost his leg on a motorcycle, same leg in the same spot. He was a fire captain down in the US. And so him and I were in contact, and we were trying to help each other a little bit. We didn't have anybody else to go off of. There was no playbook, right?
No.
So we're trying to like ask each other questions, but what to say to each other, and we're just kind of doing our own thing. Well, he actually went back to work 2 months before me, and so he was the first in North America, first in the U.S., and I was the first in Canada. And that's why, he's got a little bit more claim to fame than me. But I always say to him, I say, Brandon, that's great that you went back 2 months ahead of me. But I broke my neck in 2 spots, back in 3 spots. You just lost your leg.
And an unaltered leg that's covered in metal. I mean, your story is incredible.
So, well, thank you. But anyways, I like making fun of Brandon. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
You're a bit of a wuss.
Brandon, if you tune into this, we think you're a wuss. We think that
By the way, Brandon's an amazing guy with an amazing family.
I know you love him. Yeah.
He came up to Canada and visited me right away after it all happened. And we keep in contact, and he's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. So,
well, there's some magic in this story. I mean, here we've talked about, talk about an overcomer. Was there any part of this where you felt I can't do this, or you were depressed? I mean, was there any part that you just like?
There was days, there was days of frustration and maybe some self-doubt for a minute or two.
What did you tell yourself in those moments? For the people that are listening that might say, I've never even dealt with the obstacles like this, and I'm filled with self-doubt all the time. What can you say to them?
Well, first of all, it's okay to have the doubts.
Yeah.
It's okay to have those worries, right? We're all human. We're all going to have them, but it's how you deal with it, right? Do you stay in that moment, or do you figure it out and just be, work it out in your head and just, get past that little sticky moment where you're like doubting yourself and be like, no, I can do this, and figure out a way, right? There's always a way, and there's always a way to overcome what you're going through, no matter what. And so, but remember, it's okay to have those doubts, because we're all going to have them. We all have our bad days, right? I still have bad days. I still have days where I'm maybe doubting myself for a minute or two, and then I overcome it. And so just always remember, you can overcome anything, and it's okay to have those days, but you gotta bounce back. You gotta overcome it, right? Because I do, like, I still have those days. It's funny, I still do. I'll wake up, my leg's not fitting right. I'll trip on the stairs or whatever, and I get frustrated with myself. I'm like, but recenter yourself, right? Recompose yourself. I'm okay, and make every minute after that better, right? And so, I got back to work, but that's not the best part, right?
No, that's not the best part. I'm waiting for the little magical part, all the je ne sais quoi, all the,
the best
the woman behind the throne, the power behind the throne. Yeah. Tell about that.
And she is. And so, oh my goodness, right? I go through all this stuff in life. I'm in the hospital. I'm in St. Mary's, which was the rehabilitation hospital, and I'm wheeling around in my wheelchair. And this is before I had a leg, right? This is when I'm just kind of learning how to be a new amputee, and I'm 150 pounds. I have long, greasy hair, a beard. I'm wearing a neck brace. I look like Joe Dirt in a wheelchair. Anybody that's seen the movie Joe Dirt? I look like Joe Dirt in a wheelchair. And so I'm wheeling around because I'm bored. I'd done my physio for the day. And
I'm bored. You're not going to sit there and watch TV. You're not going to do that. You're zipping around.
Yeah, and I was a single 36-year-old guy, right? Yeah. So I was actually going out to look for hot nurses. It was like, I'll go mingle with some hot nurses. Nurses
are going to go mingle.
Yeah, nurses are hot. Everyone knows that, right? So I'm wheeling around, and I actually got lost in the hospital. I didn't know what area I was in, and I'm going by this one room, and I look in, and there's this nurse bent over talking to a patient, and I'm going to be honest, the first thing I thought was, that was the nicest butt I've ever seen. And so I jam on the brakes on the chair, and she turns around and catches me. And when she turned around, as literally my jaw dropped. I'm like, this is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And I was honestly, I'm a pretty good, talker. I was pretty good, wheeling dealer with girls. I was like fumbling for words, like, nice to meet you kind of thing, right? I'm Mike. And I go in, and we made small talk and talked for like 10 minutes. And then I went back to my room. But before we go any further, when I pulled up to that room, she was over top of this patient. And this patient I didn't know I was in palliative care. And this patient was never going to talk again, was never going to open her eyes again. She was just on her last kind of days. And this nurse was bent over telling this patient how beautiful she was. And just, treating her like a human being, which is what every person will want a nurse to treat their family like, right? When they're in the hospital. And so I was like, who is this angel talking? And then when she turns around, it probably added more to how beautiful I thought she was because I knew how good.
The light and her heart energy, just like, boom, you were hooked. You were like, that was it.
And that just made me emotional. It doesn't usually, right? You're getting some raw stuff here. So I go back to my room and I remember I Facebooked her right away because I didn't want to forget her name. And I said, nice to meet you. And later on, when she got off her shift, she said, nice to meet you. And that was it. And so, like, 4 months go by and, I got my leg. I'm starting to look like me again, starting to work out, get in good shape, not looking like Joe Dirt anymore. Um, and she Facebooked something. She had posted something on Facebook and I had commented. And then we made some small talk and I was like, here's your shot. And I asked her out on a date. And
You said, yeah.
she said, yeah. And I think in my head, I'm like, she's just doing it to be nice because I'm that poor guy that lost his leg and looked like a disaster, right? And so we went for coffee and we went for a walk and we were walking back to our vehicles. And I did the worst thing you can possibly do on a date. I looked her in the eyes and I said, I want to marry you and have children. And she literally got in her car and drove away. And ghosted me. And I tried to backpedal. I tried to text her and backpedal and like everything.
Didn't mean it. Didn't mean it.
Like, and she totally ghosted me, like wouldn't answer. And so a couple months go by and like this girl, right? This girl's waking up in the morning thinking about this amputee guy and why did he say this and why did he do that? And like I've never experienced that in my life. And then
why just knew. You just knew.
What am I thinking about him? And why do I keep dreaming and thinking about this guy? Like this doesn't make sense. So she contacts me and says, listen, I'll give you another shot, but pump the brakes, right? And because I've been thinking about you every morning and I don't know why. And so, the rest is kind of history. We got married in 2018. We had our beautiful son, Lincoln, in 2020. I have a 14-year-old stepdaughter, Kiana, who has Down syndrome. And that was part of her thing was she thought no one would ever want her because she had so much baggage having a special needs child. But in that time, it's exactly what I needed. I needed like if people have never been around someone with Down syndrome, Kiana is always happy. She could get in trouble. You could be mad at her and she'll just look at you and go, I love you. Right. Like it's just
her social filter is so joyful and so beautiful. And your soul just kind of calls that in.
And in my days of, rebuilding myself again and having no leg and kind of having to rebuild myself into a new person. I needed her and I needed Angela. And so like all of it just fit perfect together. And I took a shot at my very worst, right, in that wheelchair that day, and it paid off. And so that's kind of my other message is always like, never miss an opportunity to take a shot. If you think something, if you feel something, try it, take a shot, ask that person out, go for that job, do whatever it is that you are feeling, because you never know what might happen. Like the odds are stacked against me. Let's say that for sure. There was no reason she should have ever went on a date with me or even entertained me at all. Right. At that moment. And meanwhile, it was like, it was meant to be. It was supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you called all that in and, when you first hopped on, you're just coming off a night shift. You've been firefighting all night. You just came off a big call. You've got the kids there that are on the front of their iPads and you're like, okay, let's go. I mean, I love the fact that you're always so present, so connected. It's why I had to have you on the show. I just thought maybe we'll just like do 2 hours and do a 2-parter because I don't want any of it cut. It's such, your life it could be made into a phenomenal movie,
I appreciate it.
Well, no, it's the truth. You know me, I'm just a straight shooter and just a heart-centered. And I think my heart sees your heart and it's so beautiful. And of course you called in an angel. Of course you did. And of course you called in all that love because you're so full of love, and it's why you do what you do. But aren't you a captain now? Aren't you? Yeah.
So the year I crashed and had the accident was the year I was planning on writing for my captaincy at the department. And so when that happened and I got back to work, I was like, what, just being back is good enough. I'm not going to push it here. I'm happy being a firefighter.
Good enough. Yeah. So I was happy to have the minimum. It just going to be here.
And so like I've been back for 9 years now, right? And so
yeah.
one of my my mentors, one of my, my favorite captain at work, he's been bugging me for a couple of years, being like, so what's the holdup? Why are you waiting? Why aren't you doing this? He goes,
Yeah.
well, why? The guys don't see you any different. They don't even notice you have an amputation, right? And especially with your fire gear on, no one knows. And so I kind of like, you know what? The only one holding myself back is me, as we all do, right? The only one, our biggest, problem usually or hurdle is ourselves. And so I'm like, you're right. And so I went and wrote my test and became an acting captain. And in a couple of years, I'll become a full captain. And yeah, so I got promoted this year. It was a big, big thing for me.
It's huge. Congratulations. It's huge. Everything about your life is like, I'm just like, bravo, bravo. I'm just like, I'm such a fan.
Something I do want to say though is I'm sober from drugs,
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's talk about.
all drugs for 9 years and almost 2 years from alcohol. I never had a problem with alcohol. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't do anything for me. Poisoning myself does not appeal to me anymore. Uh, well, I'll have a fake beer here and there, maybe to be social.
Well, you're a little bit high on life. I mean, you're a little bit high on life. You
Yeah.
really just like drink it in. But let's talk about what are you doing? So you did all this, you built this life, you've got all this stability. Then you decided to write a book.
Yeah. So my best friend Jarrett, who I talked about earlier, we celebrated our birthday here.
Yeah, such a nice guy.
Yeah. So he had a platform called Make It a Great Day. And I was doing my thing, doing, speaking around Kingston at all the schools and my never give up tour, I call it, right? And so
Look at you
we
paying it forward. You just dropped in and you just paid it forward. Never give up, never give up. You just gave back anywhere you could.
exactly.
You showed up in service. You didn't say, what am I going to get out of it? How am I going to build? You just showed up.
Yeah,
Giving back
it was unpaid gig, right? Nothing,
Yeah.
no money to do with it.
Yeah.
And so we were like, listen, maybe we can figure out how to do this together. Like, we're best friends. I want to hang out with you. Can we figure out how to do this together? So we started Untap 60 together. And Untap 60 is a keynote. So we go around and I speak. Jared's my manager and he organizes everything. And then it's also, we have a website, www.untap60.com, and it's got courses on there. And the courses are anywhere from, finding happiness, finding your purpose in life, all these different courses that might steer you, if you're struggling, might steer you back or can steer you back into, the life you want to have. And they're all these courses are like, I've lived them, right? There's stuff I've used in my own life. So I know it works. And that's why I'm so happy to like show other people this, right? Because you're just like, it works. It works. I promise you.
It's not just a theory that I'm thinking and maybe, and it sounds good, but you really have put you just forged in the fire over and over again, not just one obstacle, but multiple, from overcoming the horrible tragedy of suicide, to the first accident, then the addiction. You have your calling is so much bigger. And, we don't go through this if our calling isn't big, and our connection to source isn't extremely strong. I mean, it's like you're just, yep, we're not today, Mike, not today. You're going to lose a leg, but guess what? We got a bionic one for you. And the fact is you're probably in better shape now than you've ever been. You're just like massively
cutting out all the bad stuff, right? Eating healthy, all those things. I'm a big advocate of all that. And so the original question was about the book. So then we decided, you know what, let's put my story in a book. And Jared's in there and he intervenes with how to make it a great day and how did I overcome this section of my life and
how to make it a great day. How to make it a great day when everything that could go wrong goes wrong, and it's not a one and done. It's like you keep cycling in and you still show up and make it a great day. I love that. I love that.
His thing is like, everyone says, have a good day, right? He's like, no, make it a great day. Don't have a good day. Make it a great day, right?
Yeah.
So I really, it took me a while, but I'm like, you know what? That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
It's short. It's all a choice, right? It's a choice.
Well, look at you showing up. It's a choice. Even it's your choice showing up. It's your choice saying, hey, sharing that story of that woman holding you and telling you it was going to be okay. That's a vulnerable moment that you could have hid, not shared, but there's something about that somebody might say, I have an opportunity and I could be in a situation where what would it cost me just to be frigging kind?
just to be there.
Just to be there. And we talked about before how I went through this weird phase in, I don't know, late 80s, maybe 90, where I came up against it was weird. I was the first one on the scene of fatalities. And I'm like, why am I the first one? Why is it, where are the other cars? Why am I here? Why am I having to dial 911? Why am I having, and I still don't know the answer, but what I did have was love and compassion. I have an ability of unbelievable strength to lift a car off. I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I've done the things I've done. And I also know that love and compassion are the answer, that I just saw past everything on what could potentially bring comfort. And I believe I still, yeah.
It's that connection, right?
I love it. It's what people need, connection. And that's why I couldn't wait to have you on. I love your energy. I love connecting with you. I just think I know you're going to do even bigger things. You even have a gym. I was just looking at the name of the gym because don't you train? Well, not a gym.
Yeah, so
You
I
train.
started. Yeah, so being a firefighter, an amputee firefighter, I always had lots of questions.
Yeah.
How do you do this? How do you
Limb loss fitness. There it is. Limb loss fitness. I never think of it as limb loss fitness. I just think of it as this powerhouse, of anyone being blessed to tap in and get in a room with you and share that energy, that space. If I was a candidate, I'd be showing up for that.
And that's what I want to teach other people is like how to overcome what they're going through. And so it started with amputees and, modifying workouts and stuff like that and showing them how to do it. But then it just evolved into like, you don't have to be an amputee to get
why limit
with me, right? You be anybody because we all follow the same pedigree. So, eat right, follow, count your macros, exercise, don't drink, don't put poison in your body. And so it just evolved. And now just this morning, I trained some junior age hockey players. I love doing that because I was that kid at one point. And we do like that old school training,
You're out there on the hockey, training hockey players still. I mean,
yeah. And I call it like barnyard training, right? Because it's like that walkie right there, flipping tractor tires and swinging sledgehammers and dragging sleds. And we're doing all that farm boy stuff that worked for me. And they love it, right? They love it because it's stuff they've never done before. And so I was just doing that this morning. So yeah, limb loss fitness. And I train people online and in person at my own gym here at my house.
Yeah, I love that. And, I could only imagine what's next. I had so many questions I didn't ask you. It's almost like we need a part two. I'll have to ask Jarrett, can I have part two? Because he does all your media out there. I love the fact that there's this courage where you don't shrink back, but you keep leaning in. Where do you think that comes from? Do you think that you curated that? Was it something you had to like keep practicing or were you just like born with it?
I believe you're born a good leader or you're not, right? I just think you either have it or you don't. It's not something you can, you can train it to some extent, but some people are just born with that natural leadership ability. And so it comes from sports with me, where I was always the protector and looking after my teammates and, the captain of the team and always worried about everyone else and just organizing and making sure everything was going well, right? So it goes for the same with me and what everything I've been through is like, I always want to be, in charge and I want to make sure everything's going well. I'm more worried about hurting my mom's feelings, when she got that phone call about what happened to me, that bothers me more than anything than the pain I was in. I don't want my mom to, now that I'm a parent, of course, I'm like, oh my goodness, if Lincoln gets
look what I put my poor mama through. Yeah.
Oh, my poor mom. She's the strongest person I know to go through all that, right? And they're not small events, right? They're all,
oh gosh, now these are huge.
You might die or, your son's, significant other just killed herself. Well, she's upset about that, but then also upset that what am I going to do? And how am I?
Yeah. How do I hold space for him?
And
yeah.
So yeah, my poor mom, she's done so, and she's amazing. She's still amazing. She comes and babysits all the time. My family's very close.
I love that.
And I do say sorry to her still. I'm like, sorry, mom, I didn't mean to do all that to you, right? And she says like, you see now though, right? You see, because you're a dad, you see how I feel and you're always going to be my baby. And every mom relate to that, right?
Oh gosh, yeah. Having 3 daughters. I mean, I'm still like, hey, can you check? One was at a festival this weekend. I'm like, hey, can you check in and let me know you got there? I'm 35. I'm at a festival. No. And I'm like,
right.
I just need to make sure you're safe and that you know that are they doing drugs there?
Yeah.
She doesn't even answer, but yeah,
All the mom instincts.
you're always a mom, and they're like, you're not getting any tattoos, are you? Yeah,
Isn't that funny?
it's all the mom instincts. So tell me, what's next? What do you see? What do you see for yourself next?
The thing that brings me the most happiness is helping people, right? On every level. So I want to grow Untapped 60. I want people to, to hear the story, but then gain something from it. I don't want
Yeah,
to just tell my story because I like
yeah.
hearing it.
What do you want to leave people with today? I mean, you've got this story, you've unfolded like multiple layers. They see how resilient you are. You're an overcomer. What is one like huge, maybe very small and simple because it always is.
It is very small and simple.
Yeah.
Never
Nugget that
give up. Never give up. No matter
give up.
what is
You already knew what I was going to say.
right?
Say it again. Never give up.
And that's my slogan. It's like, no matter what you're going through, okay, no matter how big, how small, if you have that attitude and you just remember just to keep plugging forward, never give up because you don't know how close you are to overcoming it.
Yeah.
There's this cartoon picture that I always, and Jarrett loves this because he's always talking about it, where this man with a pickaxe has pickaxed this tunnel all under the earth. Okay. And he stops and he puts the axe on the shoulder and he starts heading back. He's like, I'm done. I'm not going any further. And meanwhile, he was 1 centimeter from hitting $1 billion in diamonds. Yeah. And he gave up. And if he had to put his head down and kept swinging that axe one more time, he would have made it, right? And so that's my analogy is, never give up. You don't know how close you are to overcome.
You are speaking my language. I'm going to tell you, I watch people that are like, I can't do it. I'm like, can't do what? Suck it up, Buttercup. Of course you can do it. Are your feelings hurt? Get over that too, because the ego just wants to shut us down. The ego wants to protect us and say, don't do that. Remember what happened? But the soul over here and the heart energy just is so expansive. It just says, let's do more. Let's just care more. Let's love more. Let's expand and see what we can do with this. Because your soul's on a mission. And man, your soul, I tell people all the time, your soul's on a mission. Your soul is on a mission. I recognize that the moment I met you, I'm like, wow, his soul is like on a mission. I imagine people can barely keep up with you. So last question. I know I've kept you a long time, but there's so much more I want to know because you have so much more. Everything you say is like gold. It just really is. It just, you can't help it. You can't help but just ooze this confidence and love and connection of all the things that the world needs right now. And
I just tell everyone this too. I mean, I'm just being me. I'm not trying to be.
I know. I've had enough conversations that I'm like, this is just you.
I don't practice this. I don't practice the talks or anything. I'm just here talking to you. And I tell everyone to be that. Be authentically you too. Just be you. You don't need to be anybody else. Right. And people will love you. And I learned that later on too, because you're always trying to be better and always trying to better this and that. Just be you. It's easy. It's much easier. It's much less stressful. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. Less stressful. The amount of energy that goes into worrying about what people think. And I mean, I told you my age before, we don't need to recap it again. I'm just too old for that. I'm just too old for it to worry about what the world thinks of who I am and what I am. It's just like, we don't get those years back. But what we do with this energy that we've been given, this life force, and I can feel your life force and where that's going. But what feels like love in your life right now? If you had to say, this feels like love, what feels like love in your life right now?
Oh, my family. We just got back from camping this weekend and just being a family man and just doing family stuff. Family stuff. Definitely times in my life where I never thought I was going to have this, right?
Yeah.
I never thought any of this would come to be because of what I went through.
Yeah.
So yeah, just soaking it all up, watching the kids play, and we went camping at Old Forge and did the water safari and all that stuff. And it was so fun.
I love that. Oh, I love that. Oh, Mike, it was such a joy. I mean, just a joy. I mean, I know we talked about some deep stuff and some huge traumas. I should put a warning label on this because we talk about some graphic stuff too, so people don't pass out when they listen to it.
Well, and for me to feel comfortable enough that I spoke about some of the things I never speak about with you,
yeah,
that says something too. It's you made it very comfortable for me.
Well,
Yeah,
we had
opening
a
up,
connection.
shedding some tears.
Yeah, we had a connection from day one. I have no doubt that there isn't. We are going to cross paths again and do something. I can see, us on doing some event, something I saw from day one. I still see it, and I can't wait for that to come to fruition. It's like I've never attached the outcome, but I'm holding space for it. And I'm like, when it shows up, I'm so ready for that because I can't wait to see where you are because I have no doubt you're not slowing down, that you're giving it your all every day, and I think that leaving people with this unbelievable life force energy that you choose every day. You choose it every day, regardless of the circumstances. Nothing gets in your way. And
This is just the beginning.
I was gonna say it's just the beginning. The book, I mean, I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm excited to see a year from now. I'm gonna say, yeah, I know him.
Oh,
I know him. Yeah.
I hope so. That's awesome. Thank you.
Mike, thank you for showing up. Where can people find you? Where can they find the programs, the book, all that? Give us all your D's, and we will also make sure that it's in the links and that people can find you. Where do you hang out? Do you hang out on Instagram? Are you a social media person?
I'm mostly on Instagram, so at Firefighter Amp. You can catch all the links on www.untap60.com, and then limblostfitness.com is you can catch me on there too. You can check out my website and what I offer. But yeah, you can find me, and I answer any questions. If people message me, I try to get to all my messages and answer questions.
Of course you do. Of course you do. I always say that. We're so like-hearted. I wouldn't say like-minded. We're just so like-hearted. It's just like and you know what? I've been wanting a physical trainer, and I thought, you know what? Why don't I are you doing it online?
Yeah.
For the people? Yeah. You hear that, people? He's doing it online. I just want to thank you for showing up today. Thank everyone for showing up in this heart center conversation. And I just hope that it changes just one life. And I think it will. I think it's going to change a lot of them because you are a gift. You are truly a gift. And just
thanks for having me.
Blessed to know you. All right, everyone. Thank you for showing up today. Until next time, be well and take care of yourselves.